Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to New Right Network tonight. Your host, Brian Smith and
Kerry Smith.
Giving you all late-breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all, exposing the fake news, giving you real news. Going through a little bit of growing pains, so if you see some things on the website changing, just bear with us a little bit. Backgrounds on profiles and things like that. We're trying some new things and testing some things out. We've got the top-notch crack crew on it, working that thing out. And I thank you very much, ladies. Yes, Smith.tv, we employ women at the highest levels.
Well, it started with binders of women. Wait a minute. No, that's a Mitt Romney reference for those of you that are totally in the dark or maybe new to politics.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly. But no, we don't have binders of women.
I'm not that skilled.
We're not that organized.
No,
that's
we're not
what
that
it is.
organized.
We're not organized.
Speaking of Mitt, he's hitting the old news nowadays again.
He will be in our report today.
Well
Congratulations, Mitt Romney.
So as Donald Trump tweets is actually a heading of a group of information on show notes today.
Really? Okay.
Trump tweets.
I gotcha.
Devin Nunes, a little bit in the news. I know it's not that it's old news, but I want to go over it and touch upon it. Devin Nunes is $250 million lawsuit, as MSNBC refers to it.
Okay.
$250 million lawsuit against a handful of jokers on Twitter.
And the thing is it needs to be a number that would actually be considered serious punishment to a company that could afford millions, right?
Democrats 2020 are going full bore. We've got a lot of details on that and a lot of crazy nonsense around the country with Democrats are fighting, opposing, and the DCC breaking fundraising records like never seen before, and the RNC breaking fundraising records like never seen before. Okay. So we're in a bit of a fight for our lives here, folks. Joe Biden gives a speech. We'll get into that a little bit, as well as Beto versus Bernie.
You mean Robert O. whatever his name is?
Rourke.
Oh, Robert O'Rourke.
Yeah, Robert O'Rourke, not Beto.
Yeah, Beto is kind of a really half-ass attempt to consider himself Latino.
When I think of Beto, I think of beta. And I think of like a beta male.
It's interesting you say that. I never thought of that because the first time I heard Beto, the word, they were nonstop about how he's not Hispanic. He's not Hispanic. So I didn't even get a chance to really digest the name very much. But now that you say that, I'm just now seeing that that's obvious.
Because he is a beta male.
Right. And also, they talked about him for many hours before I actually saw a picture of him. They were talking about how he was a skateboarder, how he's so popular with the West Coast liberals, and all this time that they were talking about him. And this was when he first, hit the news.
So he's got to be cool like Tony Hawk, right?
Well, he actually kind of looks a little bit, he's got that lanky, gangly look to him with the funny shaped head and all that. Yeah, That's definitely Tony Hawk-esque. So, I
But
mean,
not cool like Tony Hawk.
here's the thing about cool and not cool. When you do the things that Tony Hawk does, I don't care what you look like. You're cool.
Yeah, well, not only that, but he owns it. It's the same thing as Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell, in my book, is cool because he absolutely owns everything he does.
He must be an acquired taste because I'm still working on it.
Even the stunt he did where he had his little daughter cussing him out, acting like the landlord.
That was a really controversial video.
Oh, very controversial.
Because you have to
funny.
teach the children the lines. And the lines themselves is the kind of language you would not want a toddler to be screaming.
Yeah.
You know. So anyway.
With that being said, folks, if you like what you hear, this is New Right Network Tonight. Jump over to smith.tv, check it out, be part of our Patreon group. And once you become a patron, then you can become one of the individuals in our Smith meetup group where we have a text message group 24/7.
Yeah, and you get this kind of banter 24/7.
Yeah, you'll get so much of it that you just want more.
Right. And that's exactly how it is. You want that.
So as we get this thing started, folks, hashtag Ghost of John McCain.
Is that trending?
It will be after the show.
All right. Okay.
So when you retweet the show, folks, make sure hashtag Ghost of John McCain is in there.
There you go.
That first said by Michelle Malkin.
Okay.
God bless her. Because John McCain is responsible for a lot of nefarious things that we've gotten into here on the show. And there's a lot of other people that have reported on it. When you talk about the founding fathers of ISIS, there's 3, Obama, Hillary Clinton, and yours truly, the ghost of John McCain.
Wow. And it's interesting because he haunts a lot of policy that we're suffering through today. So Ghost of John McCain, a very fitting title for him today.
And if you are in public with friends and family and somebody brings up something about John McCain, just say, oh, yeah, Lord of War, right?
Yeah.
John McCain, Lord of War.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he would be considered a major player in that movie.
Right.
If you've seen it. So definitely go see that. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely it's kind of a documentary.
It almost is. Yeah.
With Nicolas Cage.
Phenomenal. So at Mitt Romney, I can't understand why the president would once again disparage a man as exemplary as my friend John McCain, heroic, courageous, patriotic, honorable, self-effacing, self-sacrificing, empathetic, and driven to duty to family, country,
and Gawada.
So Mitt Romney's kind of getting slapped around about that because we know that more information has come out. And we knew before, but now we know even more has come out that John McCain was involved in the dirty dossier.
Yeah, that's interesting. We kind of knew it. We've been told by a lot of people, those in the know and those who claim that they're in the know, that he was responsible for it. I remember early on when we were battling the Never Trumpers, to hear something like Mitt Romney, the Never Trumpers in the Republican Party, actually going to such lengths in order to undermine the candidacy of Trump at the time, it was hard for me to believe. I understand that they had problems with him. And I know that during the primaries, it's expected, you're going to sit there and try to destroy his candidacy during the primary because you want his competitors in the Republican Party to defeat him eventually.
Right. And Trump did the same thing with Cruz.
Right. Sure.
Lyin' Ted.
Yeah. Ted, all those guys.
But during his Senate run, Trump went down to help him out to win.
Right. And this is what's expected. And I try to tell a lot of people on Twitter, hey, slow your roll. Don't go too far with this. Don't start blocking people because you're a Cruz supporter and you want Trump to lose so that Cruz can be the nominee, because one day we're all going to be in the same boat. And it didn't quite go down that way. And after Donald Trump became the Republican nominee, we had some people in the Republican Party continuing to undermine him. And at that point, we were rightfully so, accusing them of hoping that Clinton gets elected.
They would jump onto our Facebook account when we were Smith Radio, they jump on the Facebook account and start giving negative reviews of our show when we don't sell anything.
Yeah, we were just pushing the, Trump
America
winning.
first.
Yeah, we wanted Trump to win at that point because he was the nominee for the Republican Party. We're conservatives. We like the conservative agenda, whatnot, and it's better than Clinton.
We said during the campaign that we would absolutely take anybody other than her.
Yeah, and I think that there's people who are Democrats who felt the same way.
Yes.
Seriously, there's Bernie,
Yes.
Feel the Burn people who came over and voted for Trump. So
Seth Rich probably would have voted for Trump if he could have.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that were disenfranchised. But as far as John McCain and Mitt Romney and all them, I was really surprised. And the breaking news today, or yesterday, I should say, that we can report today, that John McCain handed off the dossier to the mainstream media in order to publish. And I was thinking, I had heard that before, but I'd never seen it reported in mainstream media before.
Now, when we were doing research on the Russiagate, the Spygate, all of this, I ran across documents that showed that John McCain and one of his assistants were at a at a convention and had been approached with the dossier. John McCain received the dossier and then subsequently gave it to James Comey, but James Comey had already had a copy. That, in a sense, made me feel like they were trying to get a Republican involved in this as well to show that it's bipartisan. It's bipartisan that Trump colluded with Russia.
The thing is that really wasn't made public until yesterday. So it's kind of like if the message was going to be that it was a bipartisan effort to get the truth out about Donald Trump through this dossier, why is it that we're just now, 3 years later, finding out that there was for sure Republican involvement in the form of John McCain? Are people just throwing him under the bus because he's too dead to defend himself? I mean, seriously, why couldn't this come out when he was alive? Why couldn't this come out in January of 2017 when the dossier first was published on BuzzFeed? They certainly didn't try very hard to show that this was bipartisan.
And we both know that when BuzzFeed came out with it, all the other reporters around the horn said, yeah, we were all shopped that thing, and there is no way I would touch that. Not with a 10-foot pole.
Exactly. So we know that the mainstream media, all of them, every single reporter had at least been either shopped it or was heard from their colleagues in wherever news outlet that they work. Hey, I was shopped this. Did you hear anything about it? I guarantee you. So that was January 11th, the day after the dossier was published in BuzzFeed, that people were like, they actually published this thing? My gosh. I mean, I could have published it months ago, but I didn't because there was no way to verify it. And I didn't want to sacrifice my journalistic integrity. Seriously, times have changed, because if that kind of thing came out today, they would be running to the presses and getting it in there.
We got information about CNN and just showing you what happens when you go all fake news. There's some new reports about what's going on with that outlet. But it is very interesting that John McCain, if true, folks, if it's true that John McCain approached news outlets with the dirty dossier, was he talked into doing it by the deep state in a sense that, hey, Johnny boy,
we need a big name attached to this.
Right. And we know that Donald Trump called you not a hero because heroes aren't captured. So this could be your get back at him.
So they could convince him to do it because this will be a good jab, a counterpunch.
And you lost to, Barack Obama because you had to, because we told you had to. And then, and now he won. So if you want to get back, hey, what you say, man?
Well, let's hear what they actually are reporting. This is new. To me, this is new. That a lot of people say, but we know this, we knew this. But for this to be reported, this is Arizona Republic by Yvonne Sanchez. New details about the late Senator John McCain's role in distributing a salacious 2016 dossier involving President Donald Trump were revealed in recent unsealed court filings. So that's how we know. Unsealed court filings.
And about these filings that are now coming out, they're coming out more and more and more being unsealed because now we have Attorney General Barr, who is, and all intents and purposes, looks to be 100% in Trump's camp.
That's pretty cool. So the reveal unleashed a new round of Trump fury against McCain 7 months after the senator's death. Can you believe it's been 7 months? It seems like it was just a couple months ago, but wow. Senator McCain previously had acknowledged getting a copy of the dossier, which was a compilation of memos written by former British spy Christopher Steele, and delivering it to then FBI Director James Comey. The explosive dossier contained unverified information and blah, blah, blah. David Kramer, who had known McCain since the days of State Department, is an expert on Russia and involved in the McCain Institute for International Leadership. He was deposed on December 2017 as part of a legal battle waged by the Russian businessman. So the big news here is that John McCain shopped it to the mainstream media. Here's what I don't believe. I cannot wrap my head around the idea that anybody in the mainstream media whatsoever would get a dossier, which they did. They did get the dossier. But that they knew at the time that they received it, that it was coming from John McCain. Because what did they do? They rejected it, okay? They did not publish it. It wasn't until BuzzFeed was just like, hey, what do we got to lose? Let's just go for it. And published what everybody knew was at the very minimum unverified. But to know that it came from John McCain and still saying, I don't know. I don't really believe this. I don't think it's true. Seems unbelievable to me. Why did they publish it at that point? Why didn't they, I should say?
Well, I think they didn't publish it because for the same reasons you and I both know how salacious and unverified it was. Folks, this is the same document that said that Donald Trump rented a hotel room in the Kremlin, the exact same room that Barack Obama had previously stayed in. Donald Trump then hired women of the night to then engage in a game of water sports.
Urination.
Yeah, come on, man. Is this really what we're talking about? But then again, I was thinking of the name the other day or yesterday on yesterday's show, and I came across David Korn of Mother Jones.
By the way, Mother Jones is what the mainstream media is now today, has always been that way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Pure propaganda.
100%. And David Korn received the salacious dossier from the FBI as well.
Okay. And this says right here, and I'll just go ahead and read this because this is really important.
That's why, real quick. That's why Christopher Steele, the guy who wrote the dossier, that's why he was originally fired from the FBI because he leaked it to Korn. And then subsequently, Bruce Orr was told to try and keep an open back channel with the fired Christopher Steele.
Which obviously is problematic considering he was fired for that reason. Yeah. But this is the important quote here. So it was indeed just proven in court papers. Last in his class, John McCain sent the fake dossier to the FBI and media, hoping to have it printed before the election. That was tweeted by Donald Trump on Sunday. So he and the Dems working together failed as usual. Even the fake news refused his garbage. I find that unbelievable. I
know. It's
unbelievable.
We've been talking about this all morning. We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, I think that the media, I find it hard to believe that they say, well, it's coming from John McCain. We can't trust him. I almost feel like John McCain remained anonymous when it went to the media. Like he sent it to the media, but he didn't attach his name. Can't have my name, my good name, attached to this thing. I'll just send it to him discreetly as an anonymous tipster. That's probably what happened. I think about it, people. Just wrap your head around this. if John McCain had his name officially attached to this thing when it was sent to any mainstream media outlet, they would have been like, well, we got to run with this now.
This is real news.
We've got to run with this now.
The real news is John McCain just gave us a dossier.
Yeah, a deep state dossier from FBI. He sent to the FBI, blah, 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 all this stuff. So just keep that in mind when you're reading about this story, that there's something missing here. I think that there's some fakeness in this news. I think that the overall gist of it is true. Do I believe that John McCain was involved? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that he sent it anonymously because it was not printed until BuzzFeed finally said, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are we doing here?
Somebody's got to print this.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's fake news. Sure, it's unverified. Sure, anybody that does publish this is admitting that they have no journalistic integrity, but we're BuzzFeed. So
that's what we do.
Let's make a splash. And that's what they did. And funny about that is CNN immediately, within 24 hours of the publishing of the BuzzFeed article, was like, yeah, let's report on this. BuzzFeed, hey, if BuzzFeed, who's in the White House,
right,
is going to be publishing something like this, we obviously have to take this seriously. And the rest is history. So
when Trump tweeted out that John McCain was last in his class at Annapolis,
it's just attacking the person, which is that's what Trump does. And there's a lot of people that are Trump's fans, MAGA supporters, people on the right, that this is the criticism of Trump.
Right. But if it's real news, it's real news.
Right. And he threw that in there to make sure that you knew what kind of late character, since he's long since passed now, we're dealing with.
Right, and it's very unfortunate. Yesterday's show, if you missed it, folks, absolutely jump on it after this is over. Yesterday's show about Bob Mueller spying, literally spying on Donald Trump, going all the way back to 2015 through his personal lawyer, Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
Deep state. Mueller was former FBI head. Mueller's got a lot of problems and has had a lot of problems with a lot of different cases as well. His character, don't do this. Well, he's military. Don't do this. He's military. So we gotta.
Hey, Timothy McVeigh was military.
Bo Bird-Dog was military as well.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Don't automatically judge them as a hero just because they served. And some of them actually served honorably and they became dishonorable afterwards. So, or at least they covered up their dishonor during their military service. So you got to keep that in mind. Some of the chatter that happened after the show yesterday to add to that story. So the talk yesterday after the show was that what we've discovered about the Mueller investigation and how they blatantly spied on a U.S. citizen for political gain.
And then spied on him after he was president of the United States of America.
Right. Clearly breaking Fourth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, all of the above, is that the right, if Mueller's investigation report turns out to be a big fat nothing burger, that the right will then be able to weaponize this and use it for political gain in 2020. And I would just like to throw out there that I thought that this kind of behavior results in people going to prison.
Long time
Major prison. Sedition. This basically can be looked at as a coup d'etat. Not just that they're violating the rights. They're violating the rights for a reason, because they're trying to overturn a duly elected president per the Constitution. So you could look at this as sedition, a coup d'etat. People need to go to prison for a long time for this. And to say that, ooh, this could be used to weaponize, I almost feel like it's gaslighting us. It's like saying, hey, the consolation prize of having gone through this is that now you guys can use this to help Republicans win elections. Okay, that's fine. That's going to happen regardless. What I'm saying is that the people who perpetrate this need to go to prison, hardcore prison, maximum security, the clink, whatever you want to, just make it happen. All right. The political gain that we get out of this by weaponizing it should also happen. But I almost feel like they're throwing that out there as a plan B, and to get them out of prison, to get them from charges. It's just crazy.
See, look what you guys are doing. you're weaponizing this and using this against us.
I think they're encouraging us to weaponize it so that they
would have their excuse out.
That's their justice. They're like, hey, let's offer up weaponizing what we did to them against us to save us from going to prison. That's really what this is all about. I think we should reject the idea of settling for the weaponization of it because it's going to happen. They are going to lose elections because of what they did. Same thing with McCarthy, and all the people that supported the McCarthy era lost elections. And you could make the argument, oh, well, they weaponized what McCarthy did against, those people. But in reality, what McCarthy was doing was not illegal. It was just immoral. What the Democrats are doing and the deep state that's supporting them. And
it's illegal and immoral.
Totally illegal. People need to go to prison for this.
Yeah. And so as we round this out, we got Donald Trump fighting back on Twitter. And this is why some people, like Kellyanne Conway's husband and Bill Kristol seem to be two peas in a pod, if you will. George Conway, Kellyanne Conway's husband, apparently has this very sick obsession with Donald Trump. If you go down his timeline on Twitter, it is full of nothing but absolute hate and anger towards the president. Him and Bill Kristol going back and forth. Kellyanne Conway's husband did a string of tweets comparing Donald Trump to doctors' notes of what derangement syndromes are and different classifications.
Trying to pull the 25th Amendment garbage.
Correct. And Bill Kristol chiming in as well.
Well, of course. And we've criticized Bill Kristol for a long time.
Bill Kristol's son-in-law had a news outlet similar to Bill Kristol's, and Bill Kristol's son-in-law attempted to push the Russian dossier, PP-gate,
of course,
as well. Yeah, good time. So apparently Donald Trump little triggered, and we talked about this, but he tweeted out, George Conway, often referred to as Mr. Kellyanne Conway by those who know him, is very jealous of his wife's success and angry that I, with her help, didn't give him the job he so desperately wanted. I barely know him, but just take a look. A stone cold loser and husband from hell.
Wow. There's a little detail in there that I didn't notice the first time I read that. And I'd like to point that out first now so we don't forget. With her help.
Yes.
Didn't give him a job. So it sounds like he's pointing out that Kellyanne Conway herself, made sure that her husband did not get a job in the White House that he so desperately wanted. Interesting. So there's that. And also calling him a loser and a husband from hell. When you call somebody a husband from hell, you're referencing the wife too by calling him a husband. He could have said, just a loser from hell or whatever, or just
stone cold loser and just left it at that.
Yeah. But a husband from hell is saying that, hey, I don't know what kind of husband he is. But his wife knows.
She definitely knows.
And his wife is making him sound like a husband from hell. So I'll go ahead and tweet that. And so that's what he did. So what are the interpretations of this tweet?
We were talking about this earlier, and we both agree.
There's one of two scenarios here.
Okay, all right. The one scenario is she says, Trump, man, I can't do anything about this maniac.
She's crying to Donald Trump for help.
Right.
And this is what he did for her on her specific request.
Right.
That's the only way. He could not have just done this because she had to have given the green light on this. So the one scenario is that she went to him and cried on his shoulder and said, please help, please help, please help. And then this was the tweet that resulted from that. The other scenario is the only other possible scenario. The only possible scenario.
This scenario doesn't end well.
And that is that this is all theater. It's all a game that they're all in on, including Trump and Kellyanne Conway and possibly even George Conway. And they're doing it for a reason, whether it's to drum up sales for George Conway's book, which is out.
Does he got a new book out?
I think he has a book out.
Oh, man.
So
hold on. If Trump did this without either one of those scenarios, and Trump did this just because
it would be an unforced error, the likes of which I cannot put on Trump.
And we'll know if this is true or not because we'll see Kellyanne Conway do one of two things. One, either comment just briefly about it and move on, not say, just kind of ignore it and just kind of fluff it off. Or two, she hands in her resignation and walks away.
Yeah, if he did this without her consent, if Donald Trump did this without her consent, she would have to resign. Have to.
Yes.
So without a massive green light. And we know Trump is not a moron. He would not do this without her green light. So the idea that that's even a possibility is off the table as far as I'm concerned. That he just randomly was upset that George Conway, he's so upset that George Conway is talking bad about him that he used his wife and her name
to destroy him,
to attack him without her consent. No way.
No possible way.
Yeah.
And again, if you go up and down George Conway's timeline, he does not have a blue check mark. And it is a very obscure handle. It's CB Conway 3PT something crazy.
Okay.
But him and Bill Kristol go back and forth, all kinds of bantering, total narcissism, total insanity, and calling out, see, look, Manafort, walls are closing in. See, Cohen, walls are closing in. It's just this whole nonsense. Like he really is a short arm of the Democrat Party.
No, I mean, we see that a lot with a lot of people claiming to Republican. Anna Navarro, she's bad at it because it's so blatantly obvious that she's a far left Democrat operative.
Oh, yeah.
So obvious that she's just not good at it. But Bill Kristol, Anna Navarro, and a handful of others clearly are just LARPing as Republicans because it makes for a good foil for their narrative. They're basically adding to the Democrat narrative and supporting it with their behavior.
Right, absolutely. And CNN, as we talk about here regularly, is 100% full propagandists, 100% lying. You can fact check them in real time, as Jim Jordan did to Michael Cohen on the stand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is that easy. So this from Breitbart.com. Last place CNN, already humiliating rates, nosediving by double digits last week, even more than usual. Some 10 days ago, the far left CNN launched a 24/7 jihad against President Trump, going so far as to question his mental health, his patriotism, blaming him for the mass murder in New Zealand, and serial lying about his response to Charlottesville. But this unhinged hate campaign obviously turned off a considerable number of Americans. When compared to this same week last year, CNN lost 16% of its primetime users and 17% of total daytime viewers. Young people ran away screaming. In the advertising coveted 25 to 54 age demo, CNN shed an incredible 31% of those viewers during prime time and 29% in total day. This by Breitbart again. In all of primetime cable, the number one spot in primetime cable among these demographics is Fox News. Number two ESPN.
I'm actually shocked that ESPN is not more popular than Fox. That's pretty shocking.
Well, ESPN has been hemorrhaging viewers as well because
they went political.
They have gone straight liberal.
Yeah.
There's a lot, even good friends of mine, young millennials, good friends of mine are really upset with the politicization of sports.
Right.
Don't want
they
it.
Just don't want it.
Third, MSNBC.
That's a shocker too.
It is.
I forgot about them.
I totally did. CNN.
Number 4?
No, not 4.
No, not 4. 5?
No.
6?
No.
7?
No.
10?
11.
Oh, oh wow. 11. That's, you might, I mean, how do they even keep their doors open?
George Soros funded money.
Wow.
I don't know. So I just like to bring that up because it's a shame. The mainstream media has become just so sad. So sad. The BuzzFeeds, the Mother Jones, the CNNs of the world, just pathetic.
It just shows you, if they're really only 11, it shows you that their primary audiences are coming from two different places. One, in places like airports where they're kind of contractually obligated to have CNN on in the background at all times, including at the urinals in the bathroom. And the other source of viewership comes from conservatives who want, like Rush Limbaugh is a good example because he always talks about how the place where he goes to get his information, not information, but his things to talk about is he'll read the New York Times and watch CNN. And then that way he can tell you why they're full of crap.
Right.
And that is their secondary viewership, honestly, primary being a captive audience at airports and secondary being conservatives using it as their foil for their stories.
No, so absolutely. 100%.
That's pretty sad. And it goes to show you where the left voters on the left in America are. They're not with CNN. They're more moderate. They're more like, hey, we should be taking care of each other and we should use the government to do so. We should have not just a safety net, but just government programs for all, but very moderate, not this full-blown socialist, Marxist, whatever that CNN is pushing. Therefore, when you see these candidates come out that are being pushed by the Democrat Party, who are more in line with what CNN wants, they're going to lose massively, and you could see it in the viewership of CNN. If they don't want to hear what CNN is peddling, they certainly are not going to want to hear what Bernie Sanders and AOC are peddling.
Right.
And Beto. These are the CNN candidates, and they're number 11.
So Fox News has been cut off from having debates with the Democrats and the Democrat Party. There will be no debates on Fox News because the candidates will be exposed as frauds and shills that they are.
You would think. I think they made an error here because I think Fox News is going hard left. But
yeah, I mean, because now the error is that they could convince Murdoch to have Donna Brazier go ahead and host the debates, and she would hand them the questions.
Right. Well, remember the Donna Brazil controversy, Brazilgate.
Right.
Was that she handed the answers to the question to was it against in the primaries or the?
No, it was Hillary Clinton against Trump.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the main debate. Okay, so yeah, they made a mistake because she could do that again.
Yes.
So, but this was for the primaries specifically. This
only
story
only for the primaries.
Right.
Democrats can control that. Right. Now, for the main run, Donald Trump will be like, hey, Fox News, let's set something up. Fox News got set up. If the Democrats don't show up, then they just don't show up. And it's Donald Trump on stage giving a campaign rally speech.
It's an interesting dilemma because remember, there was a point where Donald Trump protested one of the primaries and didn't go to that and instead opted to have a fundraiser for the militaries, fallen veterans.
Raising, like 6 million, 7 million,
I think it
8
was
million?
Wounded Warrior Project, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just off the top of my head. And so that ended up being a little bit of an error. It was a popular rally, and it was a good way to earn money for a good cause. However, it was politically problematic because it ended up being a popular debate. They said in hindsight he should not have done that, and I don't disagree with the strategist saying that.
However, I think only Donald Trump could have pulled that off.
Absolutely.
If it was any other candidate, it would have sunk their ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Donald Trump made the best out of it, but it wasn't his best option. They were even thinking of, remember the setup on the stage was the most popular at the time goes in the center, and then the second most popular, and it works outward. And on the very edges of the stage were the least popular candidates. So they were talking about, you probably remember this, leaving an empty podium in the middle where he's supposed to be. They ended up not doing that, but I wish they'd done that.
If they did that, it would have drawn attention. Trump would have owned that debate.
Yes, they would have lived in everybody's heads rent free. So
absolutely. I read a book about body language and different things that people do. And you know how Trump's got the, when he talks, we say he's got the okay symbol, Abraham Lincoln.
I don't know what he did.
Oh, no, the tall hat.
Okay.
The big giant hat, Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
And,
so it wasn't necessarily a gesture. It was actually part of wardrobe.
Right. And the Queen of England was always famous for that purse.
I thought it was the sprinkler. No, she didn't do that?
No, she didn't do that.
She sprinkler.
Okay. The handbag. And they tell the story about the handbag is in the room where all the politicians are to meet.
Okay.
And the handbag is on the table where her chair is, and it's empty.
Okay.
But all the politicians all in Parliament sitting around the table are staring at the handbag as if she was sitting there, because that was literally a representation of her.
I could see that where like Abraham Lincoln had just left the top hat in a seat. Right. I could see that. People
waiting.
Like, oh, he's there. It's like the ghost of John McCain or something.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness.
So Democrats are running 2020, and they're really running on some bad policies, some bad ideas. I cannot find one single one that I agree with or that I think would be beneficial to the country. They are going really, really far left. And just South Carolina Democrats, and this is something that Carrie and I absolutely 100% oppose. We oppose these ideas so much so that we are putting together a plan to help defeat the Democrats. So South Carolina Democrats do not want to teach Constitution 101. This by the Daily Caller. South Carolina Democrats argued for more than an hour to prevent legislation that would require state universities to teach Constitution 101 course.
That's crazy.
Yesterday. Yeah. And their logic is even crazier.
Oh, gosh.
The Republican proposed bill would update an existing 1924 requirement to teach the course, which the University of South Carolina has ignored. The legislation has already passed the Senate, but the Democrats in the House Tuesday in the subcommittee hearing argued the update would be too burdensome on the students both financially and academically. The bill would require students to take a 3-credit semester-long class covering America's founding documents, including the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and the Federalist Papers.
I don't know why people do not take this more seriously. I mean, you could know all the math that you could ever imagine. You could become an engineer and know all of that. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube and Google are perfect examples of what happened when you teach people the most sophisticated coding and math and algorithms possible, but don't teach them the foundation of human freedom.
Right. Absolutely.
You end up with Twitter, Facebook. You end up with this leviathan of oppression that sucks everybody into this universe that they've created. They have this brilliance where they could create this universe for all of mankind. And then what do they do with it? They start to abuse people psychologically, oppress them, stifle them,
I'll tell you
violate rights.
Jack Dorsey absolutely gaslights people on Twitter, making you think that there's something either wrong with you, something wrong with your approach, something wrong with your tweets, something you're not doing right, and you're blaming yourself and looking inward when really Jack's got you on a shadow ban.
Yeah. And you're thinking, oh, just this week, yesterday. Now, I didn't have a problem on my phone Twitter was actually working remarkably well for me, which is kind of surprising. But I got this barrage of followers DMing me, "Are you having a problem with Twitter? Are you having a problem with Twitter?" And I was like, "No, why? What's going on?" Totally lagging. In one case, somebody told me that it was lagging so bad that they were going through and liking and retweeting tweets like you normally do on Twitter. Somebody else went through to check their timeline to see what's there. Nothing that they've done, none of their activities was even registering. So like if Brian was liking a whole bunch of tweets for like, let's say an hour, see like 25 tweets in an hour. If I were to go to his timeline and check which tweets he liked, none of those were registering. So that's what was happening yesterday. Don't know if it's just technical difficulty or if there's actually some sort of an algorithm that's shadow banning these people. We don't know because we know for a fact that there's algorithms that are targeting conservatives. So I don't even know one way or another.
Right. Well, you know that there is something out there going on. You don't know exactly what it is. You can't put your finger on it. There's nobody to complain to. And if Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, if they were forced to take Constitution 101, maybe
there'd be a chance.
There'd be a little bit of a chance.
There'd be pick up something that they're like, wow, I never really thought of that. But that's a really good philosophy of, just let everybody speak their mind or just let the free market take its toll when it comes to speech. So people are like, well, freedom of speech isn't really free. There's consequences for your actions and your words. Well, yeah, it's social, though. It's kind of like if you start screaming the F-bomb in public, you're going to get scowls and bad looks. And somebody might even come up to you and say, hey, my kids are here and I really don't appreciate if you talk like that. Would you please clean it up? That
actually did happen to us at the softball field.
Yeah.
After work curricular activities. It came from a female.
Was it a beer league?
She's a beer drinker. And yeah.
There's actually a movie called Beer League. It stars Ralph Macchio. Yeah, it's actually really funny, but it's a profane-laden softball league.
Yep, we had to tell her, say, hey, you see there's a lot of kids here.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, back at it. Just
but a lot of people would feel the shame of social pressure to behave better. And if they're so brilliant at algorithms, you'd think that they'd be able to come up with algorithms that would put more social pressure on people to not behave poorly. But here's the thing. When you don't take Constitution 101 in your entire life and you have no idea about the philosophy of our founding fathers who gave us the shining beacon on the hill, the last bastion of freedom on earth, that was done by the philosophy of our founders. And they're pushing back on teaching people like Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg from learning this stuff.
And all the executives at Google.
I think it should be taught in high school. Because, by the way, a lot of these big multi-billionaire founders of these companies actually dropped out of college. It should either be a requirement for your first semester of freshman year, or you should be learning this stuff in high school. Come on.
Or even
we need to bring civics back.
Even stories throughout grade school and junior high. I know my daughter's still in grade school, have been reading short stories about the founding fathers, their biographies. My wife actually started reading the biographies of our founding fathers' wives.
Oh, wow.
Which is very, very interesting.
Well, they say behind every great man is a great woman. So,
as to what they thought, how nervous they were, the ins and the outs of their husbands and being gone.
I would like to hear the kind of pressure they put on them with policy. The pillow talk.
Yes.
Late at night, you're kind of like, hey, it'd be really nice if we just say no to drugs.
Right.
Or something like that.
Well, in the Air Force, the running joke was if you want something new on base or if you want a new product at the BX, outside the country, don't talk to the generals. Don't talk to the officers. You talk to their wives.
Oh, that'll make it happen.
You get their wives wanting something on base. Yep. It'll happen.
And if you guys remember my scopes from a long time ago, I talked in great length and detail about how women are really the decision makers in the world.
That's what we teach our daughters.
Yeah.
Girls, it is completely in your court. You own it all.
Yeah.
Do not let the guy trick you into believing he's got control.
Right. You have control.
But
The women have the control.
Don't abuse it though. You got to be this benevolent dictator.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's Brian speaking for himself there. No, but it's true. It's true. We don't want to be beat up on. But I've seen some of the most powerful, like strong-headed alpha males turn into mush.
Oh yeah.
In the face of their significant other. And okay, baby. And then they do it. They do it.
Yes.
But anyway.
Anthony Robbins in his book, Awaken the Giant Within, tells a story about this little 6-year-old girl going back to this big, giant, burly man who owed her mom money. And he refused to pay her mom. And she went to him with all the energy and anger and ferocity, screaming to the top of her lungs, this little girl to get the money back for her mother.
Yeah.
And he buckled.
Wow. There you go. And that's just a little girl.
Yeah,
Wow.
guys, yeah,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So more crazy nonsense from the Democrats on display. Yes, they are still pushing reparations for slavery. Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. This does not end well.
It's time to move on. It's like we got to constantly battle the Civil War over and over and over again. We have to constantly make that battle and argument over whether or not black men should be free or remain enslaved, or whether one human being can own another human being. It's over. We finally corrected the mistake that Great Britain made in the colonies.
Portugal, Spain, Great Britain.
Yeah.
All of those, it was not American.
It's a British sin that some of the sinners of the founding, a few, very tiny minority of people who decided to continue with Great Britain's sin by demanding that they get to keep their slaves. That's what our founding is based on, not what they're teaching the kids in school today.
Right, and that was the Democrat Party. They wanted to keep their slaves.
Right. A couple of founders were like, no, we're not going to sign on to this unless we get to have our way of life. Just a few. And they finally buckled. And some people are saying, well, the fact that they didn't go, that they allowed them to do that and go ahead with the founding shows that it was also all of them that signed on to it who are all sinners. And it's like, you need to look at the whole thing in context. But reparations is a slap to the face of all of the people whose entire ancestry includes 0 slave owners, which that may sound hard to believe, but it's not when you consider how tiny of a percentage of slave owners there were. Right. So you go back in time in your ancestry, you have 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great-grandparents. So it gets very large as you go back by a factor of 2. So 32, 64, 128. So you have a lot of ancestors when you go back in time. You would think that there's a percent chance that one of them owned slave.
Maybe the percentage of chance is 1,024?
Well, my point is that there's more to it than that. There's immigrants. So you go back only 100, maybe 200 years at
and
the
now
most.
You're coming from Germany or Ireland or
Germans
Italy.
Didn't have slaves. So it's like my ancestors, a ton of them, like 15/16 of my ancestors came from Germany. So it's like, we have nothing to do with this. Not only that, but my German immigrant ancestors fought in the Civil War on the side of the North. Where are my reparations?
Right.
I want reparations.
Well, not only that, but that's also an insult to every single, and I got to point this out, to all the white and black Americans who fought on the North side to free the slaves. Every one of them. There were hundreds of thousands of white Americans fighting the Democrats in the South to free the slaves. And now, over 150 years later, we've got Democrats weaponizing the fact they lost the Civil War.
That's basically what it boils down to.
Y'all lost it.
They're trying to leverage a bad thing into a good thing. When we could all just move on away from, I mean, it happened and things turned out good.
Oh, we're running over.
UPI. Can we talk about UPI real quick since we're on these subjects?
Yeah.
Universal Basic Income, UBI.
Oh, I have that. That's,
do you?
What's his face?
Yang. The Yang Gang.
Yang is running libertarian.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was full-on Democrat.
No, he's running as a libertarian.
Okay.
And so Daily Caller blew him apart from a libertarian standpoint of view, and this is not a libertarian ideology.
Well, if he's not running as a Democrat, then I fully endorse his candidacy. 100%. In fact, I may even donate to it. So he's obviously going to siphon off a lot of Democrat votes. And the thing is, the universal basic income, you just have to remember this. And I don't know, Constitution 101 should also include the philosophy learned by our founders. You have to work, you have to labor in order to earn the money needed to eat, or else you die by starvation.
Right. And if you want to become wealthy, or if you want a lot of nice things, provide a service that people are demanding and do it better than anybody else, and you'll be shocked at how wealthy and successful you'll become.
Or just go out and get a job that you clock in and you work 8 hours a day, something, whatever it might be. The point is that the universal basic income is like a halfway, so if you look at full-blown communism, they just pay you.
Right. All the money goes to the government, and then the government splits it up amongst all the citizenry the way they see fit.
And in most cases, if it was a pure Marxist situation, everybody would get the exact same amount or nothing at all. You would just get food. Right. But that you would be expected to work. And then, of course, there'd be no incentive and all this kind of stuff. So halfway there would be, okay, we're not going to pay for everything, but we'll just give you a chunk.
So according to Yang's platform, and he said this verbally, $1,000 per person over the age of 18
per month
nationwide. So if you're making $1 million a year, Yang is going to give you an extra $1,000.
Right. So, and obviously that would be a requirement for equal justice or equal protection under the law. The law should apply to everybody. So even if you're massively wealthy, you still get the $1,000 check. Obviously, it doesn't add anything to your multi-million percentage wise.
Now, if you're right there on the cusp on a tax break and you get the $12,000 for the year,
right,
and that throws you into another tax bracket, you might even owe that $12,000 back.
Well, yeah, tax deduction, whatever. Yeah, just make a donation or some sort of tax write-off. But the point is that you're going heavily down that road of Marxism, which we all know, based on every single time it's tried, it's a massive failure. You don't give money, which essentially is a marker for labor,
right,
to somebody who didn't do the labor.
Yeah, if you didn't labor for that money, then you shouldn't get it.
Right. And now if you're doing it for somebody who can't labor as a good Samaritan gesture, yeah, I think we all should do that. I think that's part of being a good Christian is to help people out that can't help themselves. But to just say, well, everybody gets $1,000 that way, something happens, you lose your job and you just can't find another one, or maybe you just don't want to find another one. At least you'll have $1,000. It's very, very minimal. $12,000 a year is very, very poverty level. But at least you're not starving in the streets. I'm telling you, going down the wrong road on that. And the minute it happens, they're going to try to up it to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. Guaranteed.
There's no end. Right. There's no end.
And then instead of running on giving people government programs, from that point on, that's all we're going to hear from candidates is, if you elect me, I'm going to up your UBI.
You'll get more from me. I'll double it.
You need $50,000 a year? Let's do this. Let's do this.
And here's the devil's in the details, folks. What's really going to happen when you have a drug user getting $1,000 a month, a homeless individual that is on drugs or just mentally deranged, getting $1,000 a month living under a bridge abutment? Bad things happen. Right. They're in a bad situation, and giving them an extra $1,000 a month is going to make it worse. I know somebody personally close to us, close to our family, that is dealing and battling with this drug epidemic themselves, and having an extra $1,000 a month per person, meaning he could run with his own money and not tell anybody. She gets her money, and it would be bad because he'd buy more drugs.
Yeah. It sounds good on paper, and doesn't all communist ideas sound good on paper? Where you have all these people making all these different kinds of incomes, some people that are massively wealthy, multi-billionaires. Let's use a progressive tax system where you tax a much higher percentage for the most wealthy people because they can afford it. We end up with this huge pile of money, and let's evenly distribute it, $1,000 for every single man, woman, and child. Well, maybe not child, but everybody that's 18 and over. Cut them all a check every single month for $1,000. It just seems so utopian. But you got to understand what money is, what wealth is, what labor is, how it's all tied in together, how we survive as a species.
Human nature. You got to understand what human nature is.
Yeah.
Because if you get one individual that just is a workaholic, and they're out there, Donald Trump, just works and works and works, and then
you got slow down.
You got somebody else that doesn't like to get up on time.
Doesn't like to do anything, especially if they're getting $1,000 a month for not doing anything except for being a U.S. citizen. And by the way, don't think that it's going to be limited to U.S. citizens.
Right.
We're going to get flooded. You know, one of the reasons why we have such a bad border problem is because we give so much stuff away for free. So people want to come to the land of milk and honey.
Because they know that they could literally live here for free.
And it'll get a lot worse with UBI.
Yeah, they'll have the best foods, the best restaurants, the best houses, everything that they've never seen before in their lives. There are people in Mexico to this day living in houses with dirt floors.
So, Brian, why don't you let them come here?
Because we got to teach them how to fix where they're at so they can stay there.
There you go. We can't take everybody in.
No, it's not possible. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here at New Right Network tonight. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Kerry Smith.
Giving you all the real news, exposing all the fake news on the left every single night, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. Share this with your friends and your family. Crush the like, crush the share. Jump over to smith.tv. Contribute. Help us as we go down this journey in order to keep America great again. Phenomenal numbers coming out with the economy. Do not listen to a single word the Democrats say. They're trying to downplay the economy like it's not even there, because that's all they got.
They're just lying to you. Just know that when you hear them.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good evening. Bye.
See you guys.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.